Jarryd, what's happening, man? It's good to catch up with you today.
Ed, it's been a long time. Super excited to be here, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. This is a long time coming, but you've been around the league now, a few different teams since we last spoke with each other. So before we jump into some of the nitty gritty, could you just give us a quick overview of your origin story and how you ended up at St. Louis City SC?
Yeah. It's spans back a number of years now. I'm not going to give you the full spiel, but typically came from South Africa. Came over to the States to play soccer. Played it in collegiately for a while in the USL for a short stint until I started realizing, hey, with all my injuries and everything, I'm just never going to get to the level that I want to get to. And started asking a lot of questions while I was playing about coaching. So started focusing on the coaching side of things already when I was playing. And by the time I graduated, I knew, hey, I want to sort of get further into this coaching thing. Um, so um, once I was done with my undergrad, continued on, wrap up my master's degree, coached in the NCAA for a number of years before I got a role in Seattle. And then so worked with Seattle, Dave Tenney, Chad Kolasic, Ravi Ramanini, over there for a number of years, back when Ziggy was coaching. And shortly after that, got a job to head over to Minnesota as their head of performance and help them start as an expansion team back in end of 2016, beginning of 2017. And so worked with Minnesota for 3 seasons before got a call to go over and take over as director of performance for New England Revolution. And so spent a number of years with New England. And long story short, at the end of, well, towards the end of my campaign over there, got a call from the sporting director and head coach over here in St. Louis, and they were obviously starting their expansion season in 2023 and needed to get their performance, sports science, and medical and everything off the ground. And so it sounded like a super exciting role, and started with St. Louis middle of 2022. And I have been here since, and it has been quite a ride.
That's sweet. So let's consider um the role of the expansion team versus an established club. You know, how how do you describe the difference and why? Like, what are the challenges you face coming to an expansion versus an established club?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's something that a lot of people probably don't initially think about. And when you're coming into an established team, you have your people already hired, you have technology already hired, you have weight rooms that are already built, you have fields that are already built, you have locker rooms, you have facilities, you have resources, everything that's already there. That's probably just looking for a a shape up again, or just somebody to come in and reinvigorate what there is in order to take it into a different direction in terms of whatever ownership or the head coach or the sporting director may be looking at. So it's really about implementing a new identity, a newer philosophy, versus an expansion team. Well, there's nothing there. So once I got to Minnesota in 20 end of 2016, and even over a year in St. Louis, like there was nothing. There wasn't a building. There wasn't a gym. There was no equipment. There was no technology for the players to wear. There was just nothing. And so one of the things you learn pretty quickly coming into something where you've already been at established teams such as New England and Seattle, where they have everything, and now you get to this place and you have all these ideas going around in your head, like, I want to get to this level, I want to get to that level. Is how quickly can you reasonably grow and sort of bring or onboard all of this technology and personnel and all these resources that you can actually use them on a day-to-day basis. And so everybody wants the GPS, and everybody wants the fancy weight room, and everybody wants that. And well, when you don't have it, and you don't necessarily have the strength coach on board yet, or you don't have your sports scientist on board yet, you're going to get all this fancy tech and nobody's going to be able to use it, and you're going to get this and nobody's going to be able to sort of run it. And so making sure that you grow at an appropriate speed where you can just slowly keep up, where you sort of have your eye on this like larger objective or the goal that you want to get to, but you realize just in terms of where we are now and where we want to be are two totally different places, and you just have to be patient and sort of go along with the grind of building something and knowing it's going to sort of evolve into something special.
How did you manage expectations like during the build up and then through the first year?
It was pretty crazy, and it happened. I was sort of just thinking about it a few days ago. You leave Seattle, Seattle Sounders, and they obviously have a rich history and doing well in the league, and then you go to Minnesota, where like again, there's no building, there's no gym, there's like no equipment, there's nothing. And then you leave New England with their new training facility and everything. And of course, you know New England really well and what it's like over there and what their new facility looks like. And then you come to St. Louis again, where there's nothing. And so you're basically going back to be like, okay, what is the most basic way I can influence change? And that's just bringing in like very, very basic fundamentals of S&C, of sports science, of well, we know that we're going to eventually have a sports scientist on and a strength coach on, and more people on the medical team who will eventually come in. But how can we still operate on a very, very small scale? And truth be told, you have a head coach wearing many different hats. You have your assistant coaches doing more than what a typical assistant coach does. You have myself as a performance director sort of running around the field doing as much as humanly possible as well, just to sort of help out where you typically have more bodies on the field doing their roles, but it's not there yet. So it's just embracing where you are, enjoying where you are, taking the journey on, and knowing we're not going to be here forever. And honestly, it's just knowing that when I look back in a few years, this is going to be a pretty cool story. And it really has been that. And yeah, we're in a way better place now. We've got a beautiful facility, an awesome resource, and a great stadium, full-on coaching staff, good performance staff, medical staff, second team academy. The amount of growth that's gone on over the last 3-4 seasons over here has just been unbelievable. And we're still not there yet. And so slowing down and just understanding this is a process, we will get there, is something special. And more often than not, you get ahead of yourself, you get frustrated, but just slowing down and knowing that, wow, this is actually only our second season in Major League Soccer. We will eventually establish ourselves. We want to be known as an established club, as somebody who, when people come to St. Louis, they know they got a massive game on their hands. When we go into people's home grounds, they've got a big game and a very difficult opponent coming into their stadium. And so I think us as a club and staff, players, we've embraced that. And yeah, it's truly been exciting to be a part of.
Well, it's certainly been exciting when you guys had the success you had your first year, which I don't know how that bodes for the years to come. So I'm really curious, like what was the culture and experience being an expansion team, but also having so much success that you guys had in your first year?
It was interesting because we had sort of all these labels on us, and everyone had just written us off in the beginning. We hadn't even started the league. We were in preseason, and everyone was telling us how bad we were going to be, how we were like the USL team of the MLS, and how we were sort of getting all these washed up players, and how we were going about it all wrong. And so a lot of the guys and the staff that had developed this chip on their shoulder and basically just wanted to show everybody how wrong they were. And so it was absolutely phenomenal being part of a group of guys just coming together and just being like, I'm going to stick it to these teams, these so-called experts and everything like that, and show them what we can do when we come together, and watching that first year, like game one, we win in Austin, a 3-2, and it was crazy. You know, we come back to St. Louis and we win our opening game of a year against Charlotte, and it's even more crazy. And suddenly we're 2-0, and then the next game we win as well. We're 3-0, and we ended up as 5-0. And you're going, are you kidding me? It's like 5 games, and we're on 15 points, and we're number 1 in the West in our first season in a so-called USL team, like that's playing in MLS, you know. And so just seeing like how the entire year unfolded, where I think we were like, it was more than 80% of the season we were sitting at number 1 in the Western Conference during the regular season. So it was honestly just a crazy journey where we went from like these guys who had a chip on their shoulder to where we sort of evolved into this team with a target on our back. And like watching how guys' mindsets started to shift, and how we were always like the one everybody sort of just like counted out, to being like, oh boy, like we kind of got to be on our game when we play these guys, otherwise it's going to be a long night, you know. And so it was absolutely awesome just watching that unfold in the first year, because my first couple seasons in Minnesota weren't as successful. You know, you still have players who are trying really hard, and you're going through building processes, and you don't have stadiums, and you don't have facilities, and you're still trying to develop your roster and everything. So it was nice to see like sort of this time around how something can come together, you know, in such a fashion. And I tell you what, it was just so rewarding on so many different levels.
That's pretty sweet. And the added challenge of being successful is your following season becomes that much more challenging, not because of the fact that you've developed a reputation, but because of the inclusion of being a part of CONCACAF in addition to the MLS season. So could you explain what the CONCACAF is, and then how you've gone about managing the performance of the roster, not only for MLS, but also for the CONCACAF tournament?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, if you are an MLS Cup champion, if you've won the US Open Cup, there's Canadian tournaments that take place. There's Central American tournaments that take place, and Caribbean tournaments that take place, and leagues. And it's the various winners from North America, Central America, and the Caribbean that sort of come together, like the winners of their various leagues and in-house competitions that will earn you a spot in CONCACAF. I believe it's called Champions Cup now. It used to be called Champions League, but anyways, so we qualified because we came number 1 in the Western Conference. So that was awesome. We did not expect for 1 second that we were going to qualify for CONCACAF at all. And so that was just more of the excitement that came with year 1. This is not my first rodeo in CONCACAF. It is a pretty challenging tournament, you know. Played teams from Haiti to Mexico over the years, and you know, you come up against very difficult opponents and very difficult, even more so, environments that you have to go and play these opponents, you know. And so what that usually means when you qualify for CONCACAF is your season the following year will start sooner. And so you will often have to come into preseason a week or 2 earlier than the rest of the teams in MLS. And your preseason will only be about 4 to maybe 5, if you're lucky, 6 weeks long. And then you're straight into the CONCACAF competition. And you're playing against teams, like I said, from Mexico or wherever, who are in the middle of their season. So you're trying to get the guys up to full speed, or at least to like the best place possible to go and play against these like mid-season condition teams. And you know, you could be going to Mexico City to play at altitude, or they could be coming over to you wherever. But bottom line is, you're playing against this really, really good competition, and they're a lot fitter than you, you know. And so you're just trying to get guys going again. Guys have sort of, I mean, 4 weeks ago, guys were on their off-season break, and now we're expected to play against, for example, like a Club America or a Tigres or whoever in the tournament. And fortunately, this year we came up against Houston, and so they're on similar par to us. But it's a really difficult. It doesn't take anything away from the amount of preparation that you're trying to jam pack into such a short time frame to get the guys up to speed with the tournament. And you look more often than not towards the end of these tournaments. I think the only team that's really gone all the way in this tournament, all the years we've been part of it, is Seattle. The rest has always been a Central American team. So yeah, it's a very difficult tournament to be part of. So yeah, but great experience for the guys. Hopefully we can be back next year. But we got our work cut out for us.
What did you have to do that was different, or adjustments you had to make in comparison to preparing for that time, like physically, like from like a true like technical aspect? Just really curious how you strategize that programming, because it does, when you have to shorten a preseason, but you have to play at a high, probably even a higher level. Some may consider than maybe a first or second week fixture in MLS season. Like, what was that process, or how did you think about it?
What most people think is, hey, we're just going to have to like be really physical in our preseason. But that's sort of counterintuitive to what your body can literally handle, not even theoretically, literally handle. Like preseason's already a grind for teams, because guys are coming back from off season and you're trying to get them up to speed. So they're not fit yet. They're not necessarily strong yet. So building guys, progressing guys through preseason in itself is usually quite a challenge, as you sort of build up guys' minutes, their resilience through the season, through preseason, at least to sort of put them in a good place for the start of the season. Now you shorten that and you go, okay, well, like you said, we still have to play these guys who are mid-season fit. And so you have to look back a little bit further. And so you sort of have to trust and rely on the guys to be really diligent and disciplined in their off-season plans. So the amount of running that they do, the amount of loading that they're giving themselves wherever they are, whether it's away with their families, in a different country. So you have guys talking to at all different hours of the day, because some guys have gone back to South America, some guys are going back to Central America, other guys are going back to Europe and everything. You have some guys staying over here, some guys are going back to Africa. So everybody's all over the place, and you just sort of just trying to like make sure that everybody's following through with the daily and the weekly workouts and the workloads that you have prescribed to them sort of on their own, but there's only so much running and so much lifting that guys can do without playing football. And you've heard it, there is no fitness like soccer fitness or match fitness, so I mean, guys came back in pretty good shape, but then you got to be able to sort of like adjust to the demands of playing actual football, and so that was the tough part, is them sort of like coming back and having done a really good job, but then being in this congested preseason schedule where like, wow, we can't have the guys 90 minutes fit in the next 45 weeks. So you kind of have to be okay with understanding that guys are probably going to be 70 minutes fit or getting nice and sharp at around 70 minutes, and just being patient with the remaining 20, knowing that sort of guys will get there, understanding where guys are and where guys aren't, and then sort of just doing the best that you can. And so if you can stay in the tournament long enough, or you don't come up against a powerhouse of a Mexican team, then maybe you can sort of ride that wave and use your early games in CONCACAF as so-called tune-up games or fitness. Maybe we're playing teams out of Haiti or Jamaica or wherever, where maybe they're not necessarily as strong, so you can sort of use those games and you can sort of like get by like using those games as like, again, fitness games, fitness opportunities, and that's sort of like what you just come to rely on, so you try to do the best job you can. You try sort of minimize the amount of casualties along the way, but what I have noticed is when you just sort of dropped into the deep end of how challenging this competition can be, you tend to see your injury rates go up. We've done a pretty good job mitigating that, bringing guys back in really quick, and if they've had a hammy injury or a quad injury or whatever, it hasn't been severe, so we've sort of been able to turn players around, and our overall availability has been pretty solid. So we've done a good job, but it's so demanding when you're coming into these types of scenarios. So it's been a terrific learning curve for the entire club and the players and everything like that. So it's just awesome to be a part of, especially in your second year, you know.
Yeah, I mean, not many people even get to experience in their whole career, let alone you having success your first year and then CONCACAF your second year.
Yeah.
One word that came to mind, well, or two words as you were explaining everything, which is unique to the soccer space, is that the close integration that folks like you in your position of head of performance, head of high performance manager, the integration and collaboration you have with the technical staff and the coaching staff. And you yourself have spent the time not only as a coach early in your career, but also pursuing some licenses too. Correct, right? You pursued some of the coaching license in U.S. soccer. So really just wanted to double click on that and just highlight what it takes to be successful when you are collaborating and integrating not only the physical fitness and performance that you are responsible for by job title, but how closely connected you are with the coaching and technical staff.
Yeah, honestly, that's a great question. And you know, I think that the performance world and coaches butchered the performance aspect or through analysis or team assessments. I think they totally butchered it over a number of years ago. And what do I mean by butchered? I mean that they created these like so-called silos, if you will. And when I mean these silos, it was just like, okay, well, soccer is going to be soccer. You can break that into your technical, your tactical, but then fitness is going to be its own category, and medical is going to be its own category. And so when we talk about fitness in soccer, well, we're just going to run, or we're going to be in the gym, or anything like that. Versus in the truest aspect of the game, like bringing all these pieces together in a functional way, I believe is the optimal way to build resiliency in players, to build the optimum soccer fitness, or the fittest type of athlete. You know, just because if you've ever heard of the SAID principle, I think it always and will always come back to that. You know, so if we're expecting guys to be able to run around a soccer field at X amount of speed, or run a mile in this time, or whatever, it's great. I think those are nice tools for assessments and everything like that. But I think at the end of the day, like, in order to make a soccer player fitter, you actually have to play the game, and you have to be exposed to a certain number of or an X number of how do I call it? Like, we operate with volume and intensity over here. So you have to be able to have this volume and this capacity to withstand X amount of soccer actions, accelerations, decelerations, number of sprints, and be able to reset and do it all over again. And you still have to be able to slow yourself down. You have to be able to think. You have to be able to make decisions. You have to be able to communicate. And so if as a fitness coach, if I put somebody on a line and I'm just telling them to run up and down, I mean, I couldn't think of something further away from actually building a more superior, resilient athlete, you know, because all I have to do is run to point B and then run back and then do it again until either the coach says stop or I'm super tired, you know. But there's no decision making, there's no communication, there's no actual actions involved in that straight line running that pertains anything to soccer. And so just being able to get that exposure to the game and the game demands themselves, I think, is the most important thing. And being savvy enough to be able to sort of progress those and evolve those as the athletes become stronger along the way, and be able to withstand like increased demands and increased volumes. I think that's the best way to still build a just a more reliable athlete for yourself, that's going to be able to stay on the field and sort of keep most of your players available, you know.
You talk about keeping players available and the continued and sustained success, right? Like, those are the, like, at the end of your first season, you guys had great wins at the end of it, but right, trying to maintain that success throughout the long, enduring CONCACAF and MLS, right? Like, what are the small wins each day that you're trying to accomplish with the guys, or you yourself trying to accomplish with the staff, so you guys can maintain and sustain high performance each and every day?
Yeah, I love that question, and the reason I love that question is because I think that starts to pertain more to the human being that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis versus maybe the athlete or the soccer player that you see on the field from afar or on television or whatever it is. And the small wins that I see are when guys start to ask questions about, hey, can I talk to you about how I'm sleeping? Hey, can I talk to you about my nutrition or my diet? Or, hey, I want to sort of lose a little bit of weight, or I want to get leaner, or I want to put on some mass. Now they're starting to sort of think about becoming a more mature version of themselves. And I love that, because they're starting to seek answers to self-improvement, and seeing that and how guys take on that responsibility and accountability, where guys are staying extra, doing a little bit extra on the field or in the weight room, or just doing extra recovery with the medical staff, and so that they are going to be in the best possible place for the next day. Honestly, it's terrific to see that, because you start to see how these guys spend more time on the field. They build their confidence. Their confidence starts to grow, and with their confidence growing, they're playing better, they're performing better. Suddenly they're either scoring goals, they just look better on the field, they're getting attention from outside teams, they starting to sort of get like new contract offers from our own team and things like that. So starting with something so simple, and how that has this snowball effect into their overall game. It's awesome to watch that when guys want to become these so-called more mature footballers, especially when it happens at a really young age. Because if we have your 20-year-olds or whatever it is coming through, it's like they can play flat out all day long and be ready for the next day, and all day. But what happens when guys hit 22 and 24 and 26, 28, 30, suddenly the bodies aren't capable of that anymore, especially after the amount of travel and the amount of locations that you play soccer in over here on turf, different, there's so many things that you get exposed to playing as a professional soccer player, that your body takes a beating. And so just watching guys like just try to become better, improved versions of themselves, especially earlier on in their careers, it's just great to see.
I would imagine like they probably don't just come to you with one idea. Sometimes it's like, word vomit. Like I saw this on Instagram, I'm scrolling, I saw this on Twitter, right? Like very similar to probably you and I, like as we're navigating our feeds, as we're going about our day. So when they come to you, or, there's an idea, right? Like what's the first step that you're advising them on? Okay, you want to make a small upgrade, you want to make a small change to your performance on the pitch or your health off the pitch. Like how are you advising them to take that first step?
I think in order for you to know where you're going, you have to know where you are. And so whether it's, let's say we want to talk about dietetics or nutrition, then usually the first step is saying, all right, well, let's talk about what you currently do. And then let's not only talk about it, I want you to show me what you do. So one of the few things that has helped guys who have been in more difficult places over the years is for them to sort of keep food logs, or record the food that they eat. If it's going into their bodies, I want to know if it's food or liquids. Let me know, and especially the timing of all of that stuff. So when guys are eating and then they're taking a picture of their food or they're sending it on to us, they are starting to think about, okay, what am I actually putting on my plate right now? What am I putting into my body? Is this good for me? Is it not good for me? Is it going to help me? Is it not going to help me? And so just seeing those cogs inside their brains starting to work in case like, this is probably not the best thing that I'm eating. How can I find an alternative solution? And so you helping them find those solutions and then watching them start to come up with a solution themselves, where it sort of comes from like purely coaching and advising to more of like autonomy, where they go, hey, I can start figuring out this works for me or this doesn't work for me. Seeing that, I think, is so crucial to the process about finding out, or them understanding first, where are they? And most of the time you'll be surprised. They're like, guys, self-awareness as a soccer player, as an athlete, in the weight room, on the soccer field, how they eat, how they sleep, more often than not, their view of themselves, I would argue, is not necessarily always as spot on as what they may think it is.
Dude, I love that. Love that. Start where you are before you know where you're going.
Exactly. Yeah. It does help. Yeah. But yeah, I think when you can see guys, there's like these light bulb moments and these little sort of moments in time where they go, oh, okay, all right, that could explain. Oh, all right, and sort of let's call them light bulb moments. Once they do happen, you're just like, it really isn't that difficult. So just trying to sort of dial it back to keep it simple and get back to the fundamentals, I think is the best way possible. And then watching them become better at the simple stuff will usually sort of allow them to get into stuff that's more complex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I 1000% agree. I mean, you can make things super complicated, but also sometimes the simple stuff 80% of the time will get you where you need to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, man, this was fun catching up. I want to be mindful of your time. I know we kind of squeezed this one in today. So to wrap things up here, I want to try something different with you. Haven't done with many guests before, but I think you're a good candidate for it. So I'm gonna look for one word answer. First word that comes to mind. I'm gonna read a statement, and I just want you to finish the statement. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. Success all comes down to.
Good question. Attitude.
Ooh. Okay. Teamwork all comes down to.
Being selfless.
Selfless. Okay. And the last one. Soccer in America is.
I'm going to say the word that I have in mind, and then I'm going to explain it because, ubiquitous.
Please elaborate. Yes.
Ubiquitous basically means omnipresent or everywhere. And I was trying to not come up with the most obvious answer like progressing or on the up or evolving or exciting or whatever. I wanted to come up with something that's a little different, and I think ubiquitous is right, because if you look across the American landscape, there is so much soccer in this country, but it's just not that popular yet. It's on the up, it's coming, it's evolving, with like Messi coming into the league, Suarez, and all the players that we've had in the past, it's improving, but we're not there yet. So is much soccer that is played in this country. I don't think we're there yet, and I think watch this space, soccer is going to just keep evolving in the US.
Especially with the amount of international attention that's going to be over here for the next 3 to 4 years with the Copa America, the Gold Cup, the World Cup, potentially another World Cup if the women's get that bid. So definitely the next 3 to 4 years, you're right. The words evolving and growing are the obvious one, but I appreciate the answer of ubiquitous. So thanks, man.
Thanks. Yeah, no worries. I had to go look that word up, by the way. No, I'm just joking.
If you can spell that, we'll throw an added bonus in there for you. I'll buy you a beer next time I see you.
That's awesome. Awesome.
All right, man. Hey, again, mindful of your time here, dude. Thank you for squeezing us in and just sharing your perspective. I enjoyed learning about the CONCACAF dynamics and then also just your perspective, bro. You're good at what you do, man. So thank you.
Quality. Thanks for the time, Ed. It's been awesome to sit down for these few minutes. It's been a long time, so it's been good to sit down and chat to you.